Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new to this channel, hi and welcome. My name is Natasha and I would really appreciate if you do hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and let us interact in the comment section as per usual. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Let's get straight into it. Yeah, we are here because of an Instagram story that I posted. So, for those of you who do not follow me on Instagram or do not know how we got here, I basically shared my breastfeeding journey on Instagram partially, and that led to a lot of questions from other moms. And obviously, long story short, it led me to share this video. I shared basically about how I managed to wean my son off the breast in like 3 days. And this is a child that was exclusively breastfeeding for like 15 months. And a lot of moms started texting me and, DMing me, asking me, how did you do it? Please share some tips, sharing their stories basically and sharing their experiences about how they're struggling to maybe wean their kids off or whatever. Yeah, so I decided, okay, let me just share one video that everyone can watch. I thought, let me just do this video. And in that way, everyone can have their response. And in that way, we can have something up on the channel so that should anyone else want to come back to this video, or for other people who might even ask me in future, we know we have a video that is up and anyone can get access to it when they need it, right? Okay, so yeah, that's what this video is about basically. So to just backtrack, I don't know why I like saying that, but in any case, to just share a bit of my history, right? So when I was pregnant, I decided that I was going to exclusively breastfeed, right? You know what everyone usually says, Uguti, breast milk is the best milk. Well, yes, it is true to a certain extent, but I believe a fed baby is the best baby, right? So, yes, I decided to breastfeed. And I think when I decided to breastfeed my child, I knew that there would be a possibility maybe I won't be able to breastfeed because things happen. Sometimes the milk doesn't come out, right? So I was open to anything. I was open to the fact that I could breastfeed if I can. And also if ever things don't turn out the way I hope they would, I was also okay with the fact that if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. It's fine. I will have to use formula, So long story short, yeah, obviously a lot of friends and family who are parents obviously encouraged me to breastfeed. A lot of opinions and a lot of people were not really interested in hearing about what I wanted and what I had decided on, but everyone was like just telling me what I should do, right? Which is a bit annoying at first because I don't know what is this pressure with other people, putting pressure on new moms, that you should do this, you should do that. I don't think people sometimes think about how we feel and what we want and what we prefer. They don't even care about asking at times. They just tell you that this is what must happen, right? But in any case, I decided to breastfeed my child. So when my son was born, literally, I think a couple of minutes after he was born, after he was weighed and checked and everything, I literally started breastfeeding. And I breastfed my child like for the entire 15 months, right? So in those 15 months, there were times when I tried to kind of like do a combination feeding. I tried to teach him how to use the bottle and obviously drink formula because I wasn't going to be able to be with him for a very long time, right? Because I had to go back to work. But at the same time, I also wanted him to learn to drink something different in case anything would happen. Like maybe I can't really breastfeed him at that time. Maybe I can't like pump milk for him and I'm not at home. These things happen, because I never did the whole trying to build up a stash, milk stash thing, to be honest, because I was with my son for literally, I think, I was on maternity leave for 2 months and I was working from home on my 3rd and 4th month, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I was on maternity leave in October and November, full maternity. And then in December and January, I was working from home, but also with my son, like 24 hours, right? But long story short, if you know and you've been here for a while, you'll know that we moved to the Netherlands. So I didn't have to go back to work in February. So that actually extended my breastfeeding time with him. I breastfed him longer than I thought I would. Going back again, so I tried to teach him how to use the bottle, right? My son never wanted the bottle, guys. Like, he never wanted the bottle whatsoever. It's the same as a pacifier. I tried using the pacifier with my son for, I think it was in the first few weeks when he was born. My son literally used the pacifier like not every day, but randomly when he was just a bit fussy, I'd give it to him. But then he started doing this thing where he would spit it out. And that happened for like a month. And I think in November, because he was born in October, and then in November I decided, you know what, let me not even waste my time anymore. Let me just stop this thing, because obviously it's not working out. And it used to annoy me because even when we're at the mall, he'd like spit it out and then it would fall. And every time we'd have to wash it and clean it and disinfect it. And I was just like, you know what, maybe this child doesn't want this thing. Then we tried to introduce the bottle, right? I would pump milk and put it in the bottle. He never wanted the bottle. Then we were like, oh, okay, let's maybe try formula milk. Maybe he'll take it if maybe there's different milk, right? Tried formula milk. He never wanted formula milk. I remember I tried 2 different types of formulas. He never wanted it. Then I was just like, I don't know anymore. Then people would advise that no, when you're giving him the bottle, don't give him yourself, because obviously he won't want to take it because you are there. He knows that you're his mom and you have the breast milk. You have the yummy goods that he wants, so he won't really want to take it. Then I was like, okay, let me try and give my partner the bottle, and then maybe my partner could try and feed him. And my partner would try, he would maybe take a few sucks, and then he wouldn't want it anymore. And then this happened for like months, right? To a point whereby we just got tired. We were like, okay, maybe this is not working out. And I remember someone was like, okay, maybe you guys should try like different bottles and see if maybe the bottle is not the problem. We tried different bottles, that didn't work. That's when I realized that, okay, this child just does not want anything else but my breast, right? So long story short, after we discovered that we had to move to the Netherlands, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to find a job immediately. So let me just carry on with this breastfeeding journey, because I really don't have nothing to lose. And at the end of the day, my son is going to be with me 24/7. So why not? And at the end of the day, I'm giving him a longer breastfeeding journey, which means more, nutrients for his body, whatever. So fine, okay. And then I breastfeed him. And then I think as time progressed, I started not liking breastfeeding. And I remember speaking to a colleague of mine while I was pregnant, and she said to me that she never liked breastfeeding. She felt like she was a cow, and this person was sucking the life out of her. And at first I judged her so much. I was like, how can you even say something like that? It was only when I was in that funk where I was feeling so depressed about breastfeeding. Like, I enjoyed it to a certain extent, and then I think there was a time where it became really draining, because I was basically stuck with my child 24/7. I could not really be away from him for too long. I could not leave him with someone else for too long. I literally had to be with him everywhere. I couldn't even have time to myself for too long. I couldn't go on nail appointments or hair appointments that were too long, or even just have some me time, a solo date or anything like that. I couldn't, because I was a breastfeeding mom, and my son wanted his breast like almost every hour or whatever, right? So I think it was at that point that I started disliking the journey. I felt like it was really draining, and I think I was already suffering from PPD, which is postpartum depression. So that whole journey, and when it got to that point, it just made everything worse. And I never liked how I felt. I also didn't like the way I was starting to feel about my son. I started feeling like a bit resentful towards him, and that's when I realized that, okay, maybe this journey needs to come to an end, right? So when we had to move to the Netherlands, and obviously I wasn't working, I could breastfeed him longer. So I was just like, you know what, maybe I can push a couple of months until I get a job, right? So long story short, I got a job in July, and that meant I would have to cut off breastfeeding during the day, right? So my son started going to daycare, and obviously that meant that he wasn't going to have any breast milk or he wasn't going to breastfeed rather during the day. And I was so worried. I thought the transition was going to be really traumatic for him, or maybe it was going to be really hard. But surprisingly, he actually adjusted quite quick. But unfortunately, he never wanted the bottle, even at the daycare. Like, he just wouldn't take it. That was really sad, that he wouldn't take the bottle, even at the daycare. So that meant he wasn't having any milk at the daycare, which obviously affected his weight. So my son really struggled with gaining like weight according to his age, because of, I think, the many changes we went through. Because firstly, we moved to another country, then he had to start daycare, and then obviously move away, from his mom. He was used to being with me. I mean, I was with my son for a whole 9 months. He was with me, like I was taking care of him. I never had a helper. I never had someone who assisted me in any kind of way. Yes, my partner was there, but then obviously my partner had to move to the Netherlands before we went. So for 3 months I was without him. So my son was used to being with me and breastfeeding, 24/7. So I think the whole change and adjustment was really hard for him. So he basically didn't drink any milk at school, and they tried different milk. I remember when we got to the Netherlands, we tried different formulas. He didn't want them. They tried to give him the bottle. He didn't want it. So long story short, it was what it was. There's nothing that we could do. So I asked the daycare to just make sure that he drinks a lot of fluids, maybe like in different forms, like maybe juice or water or tea or whatever, right? So every day when we went to fetch him from daycare, I would breastfeed him in the car. Immediately when we got into the car, I would breastfeed him. And then when we got home, obviously I'd prepare supper, he would eat, and then he would usually like breastfeed to go to sleep. And then even during the night, every time he woke up for a feed, right? We carried on with this July, August, September. I think around September or October, if I'm not mistaken. I think when he turned a year, yeah, closer to him turning a year, I noticed that I lost a lot of weight, right? So prior to this, I already lost a lot of weight when I started breastfeeding. But I think when he turned a year, I realized that, I've lost so much weight. I didn't like the way that I was looking. I didn't like the way I started feeling about breastfeeding. Like, at this point, I was so drained. And more than anything, I think it started becoming a self-esteem thing, because I didn't like the way I looked. I wasn't confident. I felt like I lost so much weight. I was looking drained. And that's when I remembered what my colleague had said to me previously, and I realized, now I understand. Like, I literally looked like someone was sucking the life out of me. So I remember me and my partner started having the talks of weaning my son off the breast. And obviously it wasn't easy, because another thing that people don't understand is that breastfeeding is associated with a lot of emotional attachment, right? It's not just a physical thing, it's also an emotional thing, especially for moms and children, because you have a bond with your child when you breastfeed them. And that you're giving them the best nutrition that they can get. Even though I still believe that a fed baby is the best baby, regardless of whether it's breast milk or whatever. But obviously scientifically proven that breast is best than formula. But in any case, I really was happy that I was giving my child the best nutrition. But at the same time, I kept on asking myself, at what cost, because now I started feeling like it was at the cost of my emotional and mental health. So I told my partner that I really think we need to consider weaning him off, right? So long story short, I kept on procrastinating that. And I remember it went on for months. I kept on saying I'm going to stop giving the breast milk. And we would try for a day. It wouldn't work. Like, my son would just not have it. And then I would go back to breastfeeding him again, right? And then that happened October, November, December. And I remember saying that, you know what? When the year starts, I want to really get my son off the breast, because Now things had really gotten to the extreme. Like things were really bad. My son used to wake up like 5 times or 6 times a night to breastfeed. And I remember through every doctor's visit, we would ask the doctors to please advise us what we can do. He's waking up too many times during the night. And I remember every doctor would tell us that he's actually not really waking up for a feed necessarily, that he's hungry, but he's waking up to find something to comfort him, right? And at first I thought maybe he's not eating enough. So what I started to do is make sure that he eats, because my son has a problem with eating, guys. I don't know, like my son just won't eat properly. I know I was not a big baby growing up, so I don't really beat him up too much. Not like literally beat him up, but I don't beat up the whole situation too much, in the sense that I don't really feel bad too much about him not being a big baby, because I know that I don't have big baby genes. My partner does not have big baby genes. But obviously, as I mentioned before, his weight was not progressing as per his age, right? So that really used to stress me out. And I remember this one time we went for his, I think it was his immunization, right? And I remember the doctor telling us that she's really worried because his weight is really low according to his age, you know. And I remember coming back home that day and I cried so much, guys. Like I cried because I was just like, I felt like I failed my son. I felt like I failed as a mother, you know, because any mom would tell you that you only want the best for your child, and seeing your child grow properly and grow accordingly and being healthy is the best thing, you know, that could happen to you as a mom. And it's the best feeling knowing that you're giving the best to your child and you're doing the best for your child. So knowing that my child wasn't growing the way he should really stressed me out. And you know, I felt like maybe if I did this more, I felt like, oh, maybe it's because I never used to do this, or I didn't do much of this. You know, you start creating all these scenarios and you start making yourself feel bad and you start feeling like a bad mom. And I remember my partner consoling me that, look, it's going to get better. Let's not stress. Let's just try and implement more things that are going to give him more nutrition and maybe help him to grow better, right? So we started feeding him more yogurt after feeds at night, because he never wanted to eat, like he never would finish his whole food at night, right? And in the like recently, he started this recently, right, as he's growing older, because obviously when he was younger, he used to eat properly. You would feed him like his entire snack or meal and he would finish it. So we started implementing this thing where we would give him yogurt after every meal at night, and obviously try and make sure he breastfeeds a lot. But then obviously we were trying to wean him off the breast, and the doctor told us that no, it looks like he's actually wanting the breast more for comfort. And now obviously him waking up too many times at night is restricting him from sleeping like a proper, like 8 hours sleep, or sleeping properly, which in turn affects his development, right? So there were so many factors that were affecting his development. So it was also considering that, you know, that he needs to start sleeping properly during the night. And the only way we could do that is to wean him off the breast, right? So long story short, I remember, I think it was around about December, I realized that the journey needs to come to an end. Because it was really affecting my health. I wasn't sleeping well, and that in turn made me so drained and exhausted when I was at work. I just didn't like the way I was feeling. I was always so drained, and I was always having these headaches because obviously I wasn't sleeping well, and that in turn would affect my weight, because now, because I'm not sleeping well, I'm not really, you know, I'm not gaining enough weight as I should, or maybe my weight is not on par. So I was losing a lot of weight. I was drained. I was exhausted. And I was just mentally drained by the situation. I honestly started feeling like my son was sucking the life out of me. So it wasn't an easy decision, but I had to make the decision that, you know what, it needs to come to an end. And I remember, I think it was around about end of December, beginning of January, we would try, you know, cut off the breast during the night, and my son would cry. Guys, when I say my son was so attached, he was obsessed with the breast. My son was, if my son could live under my skin, he would. That's how I used to feel. He was so obsessed with the breast, like he never wanted anything. He just wanted the breast. So it wasn't an easy journey, right? So we'd go on and off. We would try, and then it wouldn't work, and then I'd end up giving in and just giving him the breast. Until this one day, I was so frustrated, guys. I was so frustrated. And I remember that day, My son crying hysterically for the breast, and he just he was not having it. And I remember saying to my partner that, can he please take my son? And I remember walking out of the room and going to the living room, and I cried. I was so frustrated, guys. I was so frustrated. And long story short, I decided to stop the journey, right? And I remember it really took that one day that was really frustrating, that really made me so angry, that I was like, you know what, today's the day. It's over, like, it's done. I used to read a lot about, weaning the child off the breast, and how they would say, don't do it, like, it mustn't be a sudden change, it must be gradual. For me, guys, I had to do it sudden. Like, it had to just happen. Like, and for me personally, I also felt like it had already started happening gradually, because I went from breastfeeding the whole day to only breastfeeding during the night, right? Because obviously my son was at daycare school. So the gradual had already started. But then that day I had to literally cut him off, like literally cut him off. Like, it was just an end. Just literally like that, right? So going back to the question, how did I wean my 15-month-old co-sleeping toddler in just 3 days? So the day I decided to cut him off, it was on the 17th of January, on a Wednesday. I'll never forget that day, 2024. I just decided, you know what, I'm done. We're not doing it anymore. It's over. So that day, I didn't give him any breast during the night. Obviously, we never slept that day because he was crying the whole night, screaming. We tried to soothe him. And obviously, we had bought formula, and we had formula in the cupboard. So we tried to give him formula through the bottle. He was not having it. That meant we went to work the next day, literally operating on like 3 hours of sleep, but it had to happen. The next day we tried again, still the same situation. He was screaming and crying, but I was like, you know what, he's gonna get used to it. On the third day, I noticed a huge change. So during the night, I noticed that he took his bottle properly with no issues. And I remember there was even a point where he voluntarily like wanted his bottle from me, and then I gave it to him, and he drank it with no issues whatsoever. And I remember on that third day, I think he literally only woke up like 3 times. And during all those times when he woke up, I would give him some milk and obviously give him some water if he was thirsty. And literally from the 4th day, we had gone into it. On the 4th day, my son was fully bottle drinking. He wasn't wanting the breast anymore. Like, not that he had forgotten about it, but he wasn't literally like screaming or crying for it. But when you'd give him the bottle, he would take it, and he wouldn't literally reach out for the breast or something like that, right? So that's basically what happened. I don't even want to lie, guys. I remember at first, the first 2 days, my partner tried to be the one who gives him the milk, right? The bottle milk. And obviously he was still screaming and crying. And I remember even that week we tried to implement the whole thing of, okay, maybe let me sleep in a different room and they sleep alone, because maybe since I'm there, he knows that I'm there, so he'd obviously want to breast milk, and he wouldn't understand why he's getting the bottle and not getting breast milk, right? We tried that whole thing, it didn't work out. So I think we just decided, you know what, he needs to just know that it's over, and this is the new pattern and the new routine, and he just needs to come to the party. So when I fetched him from school, I never gave him the breast. I would put him in his car seat, because I think he had also gotten used to the whole thing, Yoguti. When I fetch him from school, he sits on my lap, he breastfeeds, and then when we get home, he eats, and then he breastfeeds to put him to sleep. And that's another thing that I learned, that it's really important to not kind of like breastfeed a child to put them to sleep. They must learn to sleep independently. Remember, I had been doing this for like months, so my child was used to it. So long story short, we changed the routine. So every time I fetched him from school, he'd get into the car, and then I'd put him in the car seat. And every morning before we left for work and for daycare, we'd make him a bottle, right? Then when we fetch him from daycare, I'd give him his bottle, put him in his car seat, and then he would obviously take his bottle while in his car seat. We'd drive home. When we get home, I would cook. He would have his supper, make him another bottle, give him a bath, and then when we go to bed, I'd give him his bottle, he'd drink his bottle, and then he'd fall asleep. And basically, I think by day 5, he had literally gotten into the rhythm. I think literally a week later, he didn't want the breast. I remember this one time opening my breasts, and he would just look at them and he would just say like boob and then laugh, right? And 2 weeks later now, he literally sometimes points at my breast, and then he would just look at them and laugh. And then sometimes I'd try and give it to him, and then he would just look at me, and then I think he realizes that no, we're not about that life anymore, so he wouldn't really drink it. Yeah, it's been how many weeks now? I think it's been over a week, or it's been 2 weeks, I'm not sure. I think it's been just almost 2 weeks now, and he is fully bottle feeding. He hasn't breastfed since the 17th of January. He now knows that this is his new life, and basically that is it. So to give pointers, right, to moms who want to try and do this, you can either do it gradual, or you can just decide Uguti, it's over, Bafanas, right? For instance, that's why I mentioned earlier that I think for me it became a bit better for him, because already he went from breastfeeding the whole day to not breastfeeding during the day and to only breastfeeding at night. So the night is what we had to cut off, right? Because already during the day he was not breastfeeding. The second point is that try to make sure someone else gives them the bottle and not you, maybe for the first few days, so that they get used to it. And maybe try also to not be in the room. I think for the first 2 days, I tried to sleep in a different room from my son, and my partner tried to sleep with him alone. And then only when he was like hysterically crying during the early hours of the morning and the evening, then I would pop into the room to kind of like soothe him and calm him down, but obviously not giving him any breast, and trying to obviously give him his bottle continuously. And then the third point would be try and make sure he sees the bottle as often as he can. Give him the bottle during the day, give him the bottle during the night, if he goes to daycare, after daycare, give him the bottle, in the mornings, during the day. If you're going to be with your child during the day, try and give the child the bottle as much as you can, right, during the day. And be strict, be be consistent, and be obedient. Don't fall off the wagon. Don't give in. I know it won't be easy. For instance, me and my partner were literally operating on like 3 to 4 hours of sleep like that whole entire week, but we knew it had to happen. We knew it had to stop. And I don't want to lie, guys, the day I stopped breastfeeding, it was one of the best days of my motherhood journey. I don't want to lie. I felt so free. I felt so much freedom and peace, guys. I felt so much freedom and peace. I literally felt like no one was sucking the life out of me anymore. And I noticed also his sleep became better, because now obviously he has a different form of soothing, and obviously the milk that would come out from the bottle is more consistent, it's more creamier and whatever, so it's making him fuller at night. Whereas sometimes breast milk can be a bit watery or whatever, and I think I was also at that stage where not a lot of milk was coming from my breast, so maybe that's why he was feeding constantly during the night, because he was trying so hard to soothe himself and maybe to make his stomach full, but maybe not enough milk was coming out from my boobs, right? So we noticed that there was a lot of change in his sleeping patterns. He doesn't wake up like 6 times or 7 times during the night now. He wakes up like maybe 3 times, sometimes 2 times, sometimes 4 times. Like, it's getting better, right? He has his days. He hasn't been feeling very well recently, so he's been waking up often, but we know it's not really because he wants to breastfeed or anything, but it's because he has been unwell. But I can really attest to the fact that his sleeping patterns have really improved. And I remember we recently took him to the hospital, right, because he wasn't feeling well. And I remember crying when we came back, because I felt like, what if my son is starting to become sick? Because I don't breastfeed him anymore. And I remember I almost went back, guys, because I was like, now I understand why they say breast milk is the best. So when my child started becoming sick, literally after I stopped breastfeeding, I was like, what is this? But I had to really trust in the fact that he also needs to learn to fight off, any sicknesses off by himself, and also in that way strengthen his immune system by himself. Because at the end of the day, he can't breastfeed for the rest of his life, right? So it had to happen, and I had to stop. And basically, that was how I weaned my son off in 3 days, guys. There's nothing extravagant that I did. I just literally made sure that he sucked on his bottle as often as he can, made sure that he saw that bottle and got used to it as often as he can. And one thing I learned about kids, if they are under pressure and they don't have any other option, they are going to take that bottle. Because I think he just got to a point where he realized that the breast is no longer going to come. The breast is no more. So I have to get used to this. I have to drink this. And that's how he literally learned to drink the bottle in just 3 days. Yeah, there was nothing extravagant that I did, guys. I just had to be consistent. I had to be disciplined. I had to just stick to my word and tell myself that I'm doing this, and not fall off or succumb to the pressure from him and whatever. And it's been almost 2 weeks now, and we are all good. He's drinking the bottle every day. He's now drinking the bottle literally like 3 times a day. He drinks it in the morning, he drinks it during the day, and when we fetch him from daycare, and he drinks it during the night. So yeah, guys, that's how I weaned my son off. If you have any questions that you'd like to know, let me know in the comment section. You're more than welcome to ask any questions. I'm willing to answer any questions you might have, any advice that you need. If there's anything that you're unsure of from this video, do let me know, and I will willingly answer all your questions. Please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.